I'll get the meeting started. I'm calling the meeting to order. This is our special August 31st meeting, and the terminology, it's a special meeting because we're not going to have all the committee updates and the regular agenda we have in most board meetings. And we set this up specifically to talk about, the decision that we have in front of us and the details for the building decision. So this meeting is being recorded and live streamed on Facebook. We will be going into executive session at the end of the meeting to discuss ongoing negotiations for represented personnel, and we will not reconvene after that executive session. Would like to ask if anybody wants to volunteer as a timekeeper, which should be an easy one for today. It's an easy agenda. It's an easy job. All right, Roger, I see your hand.
Yeah.
Even though I think you have half the items in the agenda are yours, so you'll keep yourself back. I'll make sure to keep you on track. We need to record attendance. Sarah, do we do that by calling everybody's name, or do you get that? You're on mute.
Left for a minute. Okay. So let's see. Raul Porras, Maura Webster, Roger Jarrett, Darren Rose, Gregory Theos, Sheila Kelly, Evan Borowski, and Bella Gorman, Samini Sampath, Jill Schaefer. Those are all the board members for here.
Thank you. Bella, I would assume no, but did we receive any requests for public comment? No.
We did not. We didn't.
I don't see anybody other than board members and administration on, so I will assume there is no public comment. So with that, we can get the votes out of the way. So first vote is the approval of the minutes from our July 27th meeting, which is included in the packet.
Barring any questions, I would move that we approve the minutes from the last meeting. Sheila?
Second, Maura.
All right. You roll call, Sarah, please.
Yep. Bella Gorman.
Yes.
Darren Rose.
Yes.
Evan Prisbowski.
Yes.
Gregory Theos.
Yes.
Jill Schaefer.
Yes.
Maura Webster.
Yes.
Raul Porras.
Yes.
Roger Jarrett.
Abstain.
Let's see. Sheila Kelly.
Yes,
Sheila?
sorry.
Oh, sorry. Samini Sampath.
Yes.
Okay, that's everyone.
And the motion passes. Thank you. Next is the approval of the executive director goals. So, quick summary so everybody knows how this came to be, or the process that we followed. We created an executive director support task force, which is Maura, Samini, Jill, and I. And we meet regularly with Lisa. And in the last couple of months since she joined in July, we've been talking about her goals. The goals are attached. I don't know, Lisa, if you want to walk through them, or should we just give a quick summary of what it's all about? And I'm sure everybody got a chance to see those, but maybe for the sake of, making that a little bit more explicit. Do you want to comment on that, or do you want me to?
You can go ahead and review them, Raul. That's fine. Yeah.
So I actually, one of the things that Lisa did, which I think was a great idea, is she organized them by our values. Can I share the screen? Maybe I'll do that, and then I'll make it easier. Do that. Get this out of the way. Can you guys see the draft? Yeah, all right. So she organized them by our values. So standard 1 being integrity, standard 2 excellence, standard 3 community. And the specific goals, within integrity is we kind of discuss things that can be done specifically about DEI and professional development. In the excellence side, there's, we always talk about how we measure charter expectations and our academic success metrics. So we didn't want to be overly prescriptive on that part, but we did want to make sure that her goal includes making sure that we're meeting those expectations. And we use the charter specifically because this is an important year for that. And I think, that's also explicitly mentioned in one of the action steps. If you remember, for her entry plan, there's a lot of listening going on this year. So we wanted to make sure we left her room to do what she said she was going to do, which is listen first before doing anything else or before changing anything. So that meant also creating out of that listening a development plan. I think and this is a development plan for the staff, right? So it's using that input to create that. So that was part of that goal. And of course, the excellence part of it, that's part of any changes that need to be made to the academic program, seeking opportunities for excellence and all of that. And then she mentioned the DCAP specifically, and there was a bit of a conversation about what that is, why that's important. So if there's any questions on that, you can ask Lisa, that knows better than I do, how that will work. And then the community side, I think there's a lot of good ideas here that she kind of said she was going to hold herself accountable for completing, on doing more family engagement things, faculty drop-ins, council meetings, student government meetings, a lot of things to increase the communication channels, for lack of a better term, to make sure that she's hearing and aware of what's going on in the school and making that part of her day-to-day. Again, listening first. And then opportunities, the other, goal 3B was more about opportunities for leadership development. And that's something that she identified as something that could be done in this first year, is the staff that has interest and aspirations of getting more involved in leadership opportunities in the school, trying to make sure there's a path for them to achieve that and giving that a focus on what she's doing for them. And then the last one is, I guess, going to be very obvious today when we focus on this and talking about development, but it is generalizing the concept of the development arm. That's one of the reasons that we said this would be part of her job. So we wanted to make sure there was a goal for this. So yes, we talk about a construction project. We don't want to presume that we're moving forward with a construction project, but we want to make sure that the goal reflects that she's doing everything that we need to do to make sure that those decisions are made the right way, and that we continue to focus on development for this project, but in general for any capital investment. So I think it covers a lot of what we said in her job description was going to be part of her job, and she organized it in a way that we feel is very aligned with the school, with our values and what the things that are important for us this year. So I don't know if anybody else from the ED support committee wants to add anything to that. I didn't want to read it out loud, but I know everybody saw it from the packet, so that's my summary. Anything to add, Lisa, or more, Jill?
No, not unless anyone has any questions. Thank you for that summary. It was perfect.
I just have a comment and maybe a question. Seeing this as Lisa's first year, I think I really like how it's been laid out. Just wondering if maybe we can move toward, there are some things that are measurable here, but I'm just wondering if we can move towards more measurable metrics next year. And I love how you're saying a minimum of 4 events. Like, I think these are very measurable. But there are some things that, Lisa, you're still you're still kind of exploring this year. And as Raul says, you're listening. So perhaps we work towards next year in the goals to make some things more measurable.
Yeah.
Oh, Lisa, you're on mute.
Absolutely, Bella. I think it kind of depends on the direction that I think the ED support team and then myself wants to go with measurability. I think the big deliverable here is going to be the full entry plan at the end. So I think that is very measurable, and it's going to be huge. So it will talk about our community and their perspectives. It'll talk about our teaching staff, their perspectives, the administration and their perspectives, and then from there it will lay out some strategic goals to move forward, which I hope will be like the goals for next year. You're right. Some of the things are a little bit lofty intellectually. And the reason is because I don't know what I don't know yet. And like already, you know, in here, I talked about the professional development plan. And one thing that I learned very quickly about AMSA is that's really driven by the academic department chairs, not from like the ED level as much. So I had to shift my thinking about it. And now I will work with Mike Naraki and the academic department chairs. They'll create it. And then, you know, I'll observe and support them through that. And then, you know, work out anything with them. So I think that we can get a little bit more measurable next year. I think this year, not knowing kind of who does what made it a little bit more challenging to have the concrete measurability in all of the steps.
Yep, totally understandable.
But it's good input. It's always good when I know we talk a lot about goals on this board, and making them SMART goals, measurable, is a big part of that. So good to keep in mind. Any other comments or questions before we're ready to vote? No. All right, then I'll stop sharing, and unless anybody wants to discuss further, I'll entertain a motion to approve those goals.
Moved. This is Darren.
Darren?
Yep.
Second, Maura. And Maura. All right, I will call the names. Bella Gorman,
Yes.
Darren Rose,
Yes.
Evan,
Yes.
Gregory,
Yes.
Jill,
Yes.
Maura,
Yes.
Raul,
Yes.
Roger,
Yes.
Sheila,
Yes.
and Salmini.
Yes.
The motion passes. Thank you very much. And we wish all the success to Lisa on accomplishing all those goals and beyond in this year. We'll trust that will be the case. Excellent. The next one I'm going to turn it over to Roger to explain is basically approving a change to make sure we can get the guarantee that we get from MDFA from our loan. So Roger, I'll turn it over to you so I make sure I don't misspeak.
Sure. So this is a recommendation coming from finance. I think that we had discussed this earlier, but this is more just a formal approval of what we had previously done. So as background, initially our plan was to redo the third and fourth floor of the white building and build a gym. And after research, that plan was shelved for the plan to build a new building and the loop road. And so as a result of that, when the appraiser came through and looked at the total value of our campus after the building is complete, we needed to, the revised plan had total less value in the campus. So we needed to buy a little more insurance for our loan to meet the bank's requirements. So this is formalizing that, and it's to bring the loan value back to 80%. We'll have to buy a little more insurance.
Forgive me if I'm forgetting, but we talked about the impact of that additional insurance as far as additional cost, and it's already in our projections, right?
Yes, the amount of the additional insurance, I don't have an exact number for you. I will provide it for the next meeting. It was small. The amount of insurance was small, but I don't know I don't have an exact number for it. And yes, it is built into the current budget and future budget projections.
Yeah, and I don't need a specific number other than knowing that we put it into the budget. So that's
No, I would like to report back at the 9:15 meeting on the exact number.
okay. You can put that as an action item, Sarah.
Yeah.
Right. So the language specifically
Reporting on the actual number of the insurance.
The cost, the additional cost, a yearly cost that AMSA will incur as a result of this vote or really as a result of our change in plans, to be precise.
And you will report at the 15th meeting?
Yes.
So specific languages in the packet. I don't know if anybody has any further questions on that. All right. Can I have a motion to approve the change in the insurance guarantee from NDFA?
I'll make the motion to increase the insurance as described or from MDFA.
I'll second that. That's Raul. So Roger and Raul.
Great. Bella,
Yes.
Darren,
Yes.
Evan,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Jill,
Yes.
Maura,
Yes.
Raul,
Yes.
Roger,
Yes.
Sheila. Sheila? Sheila?
Yes.
Sheila.
Oh, okay. Salmini?
Yes.
That's everyone.
And the motion passes. Thank you. So the next one, we have it as a vote, Roger, but I guess the vote is specific to the decision point about the HVAC, right? So I'll let you explain it because I'm not sure if that includes the going into the details of the project itself, or is it just specific? Is the vote specific just to the plans for the HVAC?
Yeah, so this, I don't know, first a question, then I can try to explain it. Were we gonna,
Roger, would it be better if I did the construction update and then you
Ah.
launched in that? Because I think
yes,
there might be less questions.
yes, this is related to the construction update, so I think if we did Lisa's presentation first,
Okay.
and then I can explain, that will give the context so we can explain the vote.
Yeah, and just so everybody doesn't, know what we're getting ready to vote. We're not voting in the project itself, but it's something related to the update that we're about to hear from Lisa. So I guess we'll turn it over to Lisa to give the project update, and then at the end of that will be a vote, but it's not the big vote that we're going to do on the 15th.
Yes,
Correct.
well said.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen. All right. So, there we go, the clicker. This update is going to provide you with a construction project update, look at our capital expenses with 2-year projections for this presentation. Then I'm going to ask Marcy to step in. She's been doing an amazing job just to give a quick development update. And then we'll talk about what next steps, which will then, we can explain the vote that Raul and Roger were just talking about. So for the construction project update, essentially we should have the GMP, the guaranteed maximum price, before the next meeting on the 9/15/23. We actually anticipate it to be delivered to us in our inbox on 9/11. I believe we have a mini update meeting with the construction folks around the 6th when Liana gets back from her leave. What we're hearing, however, is that we were on target to meet the current budget, which was 12.8 million, and that includes the loop road work. So we're hearing that it's not going to come in over budget, and that is fantastic. And they seem pretty confident about that. We're also hearing that they feel that they will be able to maintain their schedule, and that if we move forward, that we will be able to occupy the building in December of 2025. And also the loop road is currently being utilized. We've had to make some shifts around traffic. It is improved kind of daily. The first day was a little hairy, But some weekends in September are when they're going to do the final top coat. So right now it's just binder. They do work when no one's around, and they will finalize it before the end of September. So just a little review. AMSA has secured a loan from Boston Private for $24 million for the building purchase of 201 and 199, and also for the construction project. A part of the agreement requires AMSA to invest an additional $4 million of its own money into the project, but we have actually committed just slightly over $5 million, and you'll see that coming up. The board asked about available cash. So the total cash that AMSA has available to it at the moment is $9,750,000. Out of that 9.7, 2.4 is committed to the project. I'm going to walk you through the capital expenditures that we think that we need to expend over the next 2 years. That totals about 1.2 million. The capital campaign money and STEM Soaring Eagles fund right now, and this is before adding like the golf tournament and whatnot, is 167. And the cost of the loop road was approximately 750,000. So the cash remaining right now is 5.5. The Department of Ed recommends that AMSA has at least 2 months of operating in reserve, but I met with the auditors and they really advise us to keep 3 months of operating expenses in reserves, which would total 4 million. So we are within our safety range for sure. There's more than the 3 months that we will have in reserve. This is an overview of the capital expenses, FY24 and FY25, and then a total. I'm going to give your eyes a few seconds to land on this, because then I'll break it down. I'll break out these categories and walk you through them. So this, just got to catch up my notes. We actually have this planned out for 5 years, and I'm happy to bring the whole 5-year projection to the board at a later date, but we wanted to just focus on, you know, this year and next year. What you're looking at in all the yellow highlighted numbers are already in the current budget. The green highlights are not in the current budget. However, I met with Liana the other day before she left, and we probably will be coming back to the board sometime, going to finance first, clearly, and then the board sometime in either October or November to talk about moving forward with much of what's in the green. We both feel that it's prudent to do so. We're currently still waiting for the HVAC system that was ordered in March for the upper school. As we look forward and we project our surplus over the next 5 years, even with a vote to do some replacing of the HVAC system this year, it probably will not land in this year's budget. It probably will land in next year's budget because of the timeline for these things to come in. But we can definitely present that a little bit later. We might have to swap something out. One of our school buses just died the other day, and so we may end up coming, you know, we might say, well, we're going to do this one instead of that one. That's why we want a little time before we come to you with kind of what's next. Marcy, would you like to talk a little bit about development?
Sure. Yeah, thank you.
All right.
So we've raised $297,241 to date, and you might be scratching your head because when Lisa just showed her numbers with the amount there, the amount raised does include pledges. And so you probably will all remember prior to my starting, we got a $50,000 pledge from an organization. I actually can't remember it off the top of my head, you know, and they won't pay actually until we raise at least $1 million. You know, we had $30,000 in pledges that came in, you know, around January of last year. So that's why there's the discrepancy in the numbers. We and this number right here actually does not include the final golf tournament numbers. It actually does have the golf sponsors in there, which is about $11,000, but it doesn't have the money that was generated from the players and the silent auction and the raffle. The total for the golf tournament, I think, was around $18,000. So there'll be a little bump to that. And then actually yesterday, we received word from Middlesex Savings Bank that we got a $25,000 charitable gift from them. In my experience with Middlesex Savings Bank, they actually will want to pay in increments, and they will not pay until the project is well on its way to being started. But that was encouraging news, especially because I think the banks are organizations, certainly in the Marlborough community, that we should be able to leverage a little bit more. So we will continue to work on that. I think everybody will remember, because when I presented to you in January, I think we talked about this, but the Imagine Committee was one big group when I started. We decided to split it in half. One group is focused on major gifts, and one group is focused on events. We had actually a meeting with the event group this morning, and they're planning a fun run coming up this fall, which, you know, some of the parents on that committee have said that those can generate, you know, $18,000 to $20,000, which would be lovely. Last year we had 3 events. We had 2 coffees in the school to walk people through the project, and then we had a family in Maynard that hosted an event for us. I think from a, you know, community relations standpoint, they were great. I think people felt well informed from those. We didn't get any huge hits from a prospecting point of view for those, but I think that that's perfectly fine. I think a lot of this is about sort of networking, raising people's sights, making sure people understand the project, making sure people understand the need for funding. So right now, you know, corporate sponsors or corporations are our major prospects for big money. Certainly need to get more in. Last year we did, you know, Main Street Bank, Middlesex Savings Bank. Kate Hogan actually came in for a tour. We did a couple of the pharmaceutical companies, but we need to get a lot more of that going, and we absolutely know that. And then we need to start sort of nuancing how we're communicating with families. Lisa and I had a good discussion earlier this week about potentially not necessarily selling the way to contribute to families as being campaign related, but maybe more annual support for the school as a whole. So we're going to think about that a little bit more. I'm actually meeting with Darren and Maura tomorrow to flesh that out a little bit more about what that could mean for us. So you know, we will certainly be back in touch with more ideas for that as we move forward. I think I have another slide. Is that right? Yeah, so this is sort of a little bit what I was talking about. So, you know, just ongoing conversations, comprehensive campaign that could include all phases of the project or not. Endowment funding, certainly as you looked at those facility costs that Lisa just showed, you know, some endowment funding could really be helpful for ongoing facilities costs that the school has. You know, reestablishing the annual fund. I mean, that's huge. That's not anything that we look, you know, I'm going on about a year now. I started actually on Halloween last year. So, you know, we didn't really do any annual fundraising. I mean, modest, small campaigns, but I think we absolutely need to reestablish the annual fund. We need to connect with alumni more. Mark is doing a great job reaching out to alumni, but I think it's time for us to start asking alumni to participate in some way. We are still doing a lot of grant writing, and I actually met with Betsy, who I think you all probably know. She was the consultant that worked for AMSA prior to my starting. She's actually been staying on a very modest amount of hours per month, maybe 5 or so hours per month, doing some grant prospecting for us. And, you know, we had a candid conversation today about how a lot of these organizations that we're applying to don't really support capital projects, but they do support programming. So is there a way that we can get creative with our language and with our use of funds that we sort of wrap programming into the overall concept of this project? And then the other thing that we've been talking a lot too is about using the STEM Soaring Eagles board more actively. I think there are a couple new members of that board. I think there's some energy going in. Chris has been doing a lot of work and making a lot of connections. So using that board as ambassadors will be, I think, fruitful for us as an organization. And then, you know, this is just sort of to reiterate what we've been talking about all along. 100% board commitment is so important. It's not about the size of the gift. It's about being able to say we have 100% board giving. You know, obviously all these amounts are confidential, but it's a critical talking point, especially when we're talking to parents. You know, letting parents know that the board is not only, you know, I mean, obviously discussing this project on an ongoing basis every month, but also financially has invested in this project too, I think will be really important to us. Oh, and then the other thing too is, and I know Raul just sent out an email last week, just so some of the prospecting that we're doing, you know, every so often I'd love to just hear from other board members about any relationships that you have. So it might be that, you know, occasionally I throw out some companies that we're looking for an entree into, and those are really wonderful to have too. So thank you for that.
Fantastic. Thank you, Marcy. Okay. So our current financial position, we are really right on track with our budget this fiscal year. Things that are in our favor are the FY state budget, FY24 state budget increased charter per pupil rate by $100 per student. So that was not something that we anticipated, and it'll be more money in AMSA's pocket. The loan rate right now is extremely low. We will never ever see a loan rate like this again. Or at least, as Raul likes to say, for the next economic cycle, and they keep getting longer. And the other thing that we want to share with the board is that we've been managing, Liana really has been managing our finances and cash to include investing, and we're really getting better than expected returns on that money. We talked in finance about having guidelines to kind of keep that aggressive investing moving forward. And I think that it will be really great for AMSA. We feel that it's safe to start tackling some of the capital projects. And if in fact the GMP comes back at the projection of being right around the budget number, that we are, you know, in a safe place to move forward with that without jeopardizing, you know, AMSA or our teachers or anything else like that. Why yes? So I kind of stole my thunder. On track with our current budget, the GMP is projected to come in around 12.8. We can complete priority capital projects with moving forward with the new building. There will be financial consequences if we decide to not move forward with the project. And some folks were wondering what, you know, what it would look like if we didn't. There's about $1.6 million that we've already sunk into the project soft costs, which would end up as a deficit if we didn't move forward. We would definitely lose access to those favorable loan terms, and we would be subjected to large prepayment penalties if we didn't move forward. So why yes? Next steps, the Board of Trustees will receive the finalized GMP. We anticipate on September 11th, and I will be preparing one of my S'mores newsletters, and also I'm thinking of a screencastify to kind of walk our community members through this presentation that may not have seen it tonight. It'll be a little bit different to get out right around the 11th for our community. And then on September 15th, the board will make its vote whether or not to move forward with the project. We are also going to have some pre-open house discussions. So our open house back to school night is September 21st for one of the schools. It's not on my calendar right there, but I will get that out to families. And then on the 27th, they start at 6 o'clock, but I will be available in the different cafeterias to do a presentation and or questions and talk to the community if they want to come early and talk a little bit about the process that we have undertaken to make this big decision. Anyone have any questions?
I just want to make a quick comment, because I know when I started looking at this, it wasn't obvious to me, and it helped once I realized this. The loan that we got is not like what you might be familiar with at a personal level. You're like a mortgage when you're buying your house, you put a down payment down and then, you know, you're paying off the rest of the value of your house. It was project loan, for lack of a better term, where they said, okay, you have $24 million to draw from, and then we drew to buy the buildings that we bought, and then the rest of what's left on that loan will be for the project that we're talking about right now. So when Lisa says, you know, there'll be prepayment penalties and whatnot, the time that we have to draw that loan ends, correct me if I'm wrong, at the end of this year, or like even sooner than that?
Sooner than that, we have to start drawing it down.
So I forget the exact date, but it will be before the end of this year.
Yes.
Where if we want to use that loan for anything, I mean, for what we're allowed to use that loan,
Right.
we have to take that money out by then. So I think that was clarifying for me, because I thought of it like, oh, we bought buildings, we took out a mortgage, and you know, this is a different loan. It's the same loan, because we already knew that we were going to undertake a project, which the project changed, and the project originally was just to build out one floor in a building, and it became building a whole new building. But other than that, you know, that's the opportunity we have, right? It's to use that loan for the purpose that we took it. And at the big picture, and Bella, Roger, anybody could correct me if I get any of this wrong, it was a $24 million loan that we already drawn 12. So we basically have half of that loan available, plus the cash that we have, while still maintaining the safety margins that Lisa just walked us through for the rest of the building, which is why seeing a number that's around $12 million for the GMP is very encouraging. So I just wanted to boil it down to that. I know it's not as simple as that. We want to make sure we look at everything. And I know that, you know, the finance committee and Liana and everybody in the team has spent a lot of time looking at a lot of details to make sure that we're being as thorough as possible about what do we expect to be expenses coming up in the next 5 years in the school, to make sure that we're not doing anything that could put us in trouble. But just at that high level, like I boiled it down, it looks encouraging.
And Raul, I will add in that that $12.8 million does have a significant contingency built into it, so that, you know, we all know projects have change orders, and you know, sometimes they go up, they don't usually go down, but there is a significant contingency built into that to give us a little cushion, you know, when these kinds of things happen. So not only is it within the budget, but it does have a contingency built into it. I believe, Roger, is it October we have to start drawing down the loan? Is that your recollection? Because that's mine.
Yes. So the loan proceeds we will draw and put into the construction account in by October or November. So at that point, all that money will be moved from First Citizen to our project account, and it will stay in the project account and then be spent as we incur project expenses.
So what Roger is going to kind of tee up for you all next is the fact that, you know, the construction company has come back to us several times letting us know that that this GMP is looking like it's coming in right at $12.8 million. They've asked for us to request from the board to take a vote to allow them to start doing some paperwork to secure HVAC and electrical items that typically delay a project. And when projects are delayed, it costs more money because people are hanging around and doing nothing. They've basically given us kind of an estimate saying, and they estimate high. So if we made a yes vote today to move forward with this paperwork. And on the 15th, the board voted no to move the project forward. They said that it could potentially cost us about $300,000.
Yeah.
That's our risk.
Yeah.
But easily, if we're waiting for HVAC and we have people standing around on the construction site, that can go really fast. So Bob Baldwin, who kind of protects AMSA's interest, highly recommended to the finance committee that we encourage this vote. And that's my tee up, Roger. You take it over.
Well, but
Sure.
before we actually talk about the vote, I want to make sure everybody
Oh, questions.
gets questions about the building picture, you know, about the project and the financial situation. You don't need to have all those questions answered today, but if there's anything that you would like to see, it's, you know, we have between now and the 15th to get all that detail, to show you all that detail. We want to make sure everybody's comfortable with the detail that we have in front of ourselves. This has been years of talking about the financials and, you know, how this project is. So for some of us, it's more, you know, it's something we've been looking at for a while, but I appreciate that for others on the board, it might not be. So I want to make sure before we move into the vote that any reactions to what we just saw, any questions of things that you didn't quite understand and that want to get more detail on, or anything else, please, you know, this is the time to have that discussion.
I did just want to say, as a new board member and having all of the numbers and facts put in front of me definitely puts a lot of items into perspective. And, you know, just as you mentioned, Raul, having, you know, this project been talked about for years to come now, it's actually nice to see everything laid out and puts into perspective. So I can appreciate that.
Okay, excellent. Any questions?
I'll ask a leading question, hopefully to break the ice. Maybe other people ask a following question. It's in talking with Lisa, you know, in the presentation, we show the next 2 years of capital infrastructure planning, but in talking with Lisa, that she's going to come back to the board in the fall timeframe with a sort of the 4 or 5 year detailed plan for our capital infrastructure. And so that, you know, and we do think that like I say, that this whole thing fits together, that we would be able to support our capital infrastructure needs of our aging school, at the same time being able to go forward with the new building. And I'm looking forward to seeing the details on the plan to implement that.
And just to state the obvious, one of the reasons that's important is because we don't want any surprises. We don't want anything that could say, hey, you know, if we hadn't gone and started this building project, we would have been able to afford X, or, you know, these things that are needed for the school. So that's one of the reasons and the importance of having that plan. The other one, which it's harder to think about it now, but it was something that was obvious to us when we were making the decision to even buy the buildings, is that we were tenants before. So we were renting from the building and we depended on the landlord to make the improvements that were needed to do all the maintenance. So the good news is that we're not paying rent anymore. The bad news is that all the things that happen to the building that break and that need maintenance, we need to plan for those things. So that's why this becomes, you know, we have, and I think Leanna has done a great job of having that long-term vision, and then, you know, learning over the last few years, since we bought the buildings, you know, how to put money aside for those kinds of things. But that's one of the things that we are very careful about and want to be as thorough as possible before making this big decision. All right. Sounds like everybody's super clear and, you know, they're experts on the numbers by now, Roger. So maybe we can move on to the question about the HVAC and, you know, I guess taking that step now.
Yeah. All right. So Bob Baldwin presented in detail to the Finance Committee the proposal to move forward with the basically the bid paperwork for these two large things. There's both electrical and mechanical air conditioning units that, presuming that we move forward with the project, we would need to buy. And as we saw from the existing AC unit, the two AC units that we have been trying to buy, those still haven't even shown up yet. So in the interest of keeping this project on schedule or managing risk, we thought that Bob Baldwin recommended and Finance Committee agreed with the recommendation to go forward and start the paperwork for the purchase of the selected electrical and mechanical needs for the new building. Like I said, the downside is if we decide against it, we could possibly be out, we would be out the cost that these subcontractors incur for creating the paperwork between now and September 15th. The plus is that we move we help keep the project on schedule and prevent the electrical or mechanical, prevent people standing around waiting for electrical and mechanical equipment to arrive.
May I ask, what's going to happen between now and September 15th that will inform the vote on the project?
We will be receiving the final guaranteed maximum contract package from the bid, like Lisa described, by around September 11th, and that will be the final. That will give us the document that we will be bidding. We will be with the final number, and that we would be making a vote on September 15th in regards to.
And we feel good today that we have some good visibility into what that number is going to look like.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
It has been good news, I guess I would say. So good news is not as good as a guarantee, but a guarantee we'll have in a couple of weeks. And just to remind everybody of the timeline, we decided to have this meeting not because we need to make decisions today, but because we didn't want to get all the information 2 days before making the decision. So all the financial situation that we talked about today, we already know. We're pretty comfortable where we are with today's details. The only thing we're missing is that GMP that we're going to get on the 11th. So we're going to get it, I'm assuming over email, some kind of communication by the 11th or the 12th. And then we have a couple of days to look at it individually. And then we get together on the 15th to actually make the decision. So the main purpose of having this meeting was to make sure that we were not doing all of that on the 15th and the very last minute.
Yeah, just sort of elaborate on what Raul said. The purpose of this meeting is to surface any questions that we as board members have. And the ones we can answer, we'll answer in the meeting. The ones we don't, we'll write the questions down and we'll come back to the board with the answers either in between the meetings or at the latest at the next meeting.
All right. Are we ready for a vote?
Yeah.
I'm seeing nodding. All right, Roger, you want to make the motion since you have it?
Yes, I will make the motion to I'll read it off here. To authorize WT Rich to execute subcontracts for HVAC and electrical trades for combined contract value of $1,879,800, and with limiting AMSA's financial disclosure on these contracts to less than $300,000.
For the next 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah, so that our exposure, that's although the like say the total value of those contracts is just short of $2 million. Our exposure maximum is less than $300,000 if we decide to not go.
And I guess I just want to clarify for everyone that 1.8 million is part of the 12.8 that we will be voting on later in a few weeks. So it is part of that that budget. I don't know if that clarifies things.
Thank you, Bella. That
Yeah.
was very useful.
This is Darren. I'll second the motion.
Moved by Roger, second by Darren. Sarah, can
All right.
you?
I will call. Bella,
Yes.
Darren,
Yes.
Evan,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Jill,
Yes.
Maura,
Yes.
Raul,
Yes.
Roger,
Yes.
Sheila,
Yes.
and Salmini.
Yes.
That's everyone.
The motion passes. Thank you. This feels similar to when we made the decision about the traffic changes. So I haven't personally experienced the new traffic flow, but I believe and I hope it's an improvement after, getting through the first couple of days of school. And seeing smiling, so I don't know if that's an agreement or disagreement, but we decided to make that change even though we were not sure what was going to happen with the buildings. And, even if we don't go forward, at least we have a new traffic flow. I think this will be similar, right? So we're not making a commitment to the whole project right now, but we're starting to make sure that, if we do, we're not wasting any time. So I do think it's a risk worth taking, and I appreciate everybody, considering that and being cautious about it. All right, so it's an interesting, I don't know if it's the same thing, but if anybody's familiar with Worcester Kelly Square, when they created that peanut-shaped double rotary thing, I actually think eventually got better. So I don't know. Hopefully we can have a similar experience. But
It did take the fun out of it, but
yes. All right. So that's it for all the votes. Yeah. So any comments?
One comment. I'm very excited. I'm very excited to see that we no longer have traffic flowing through the middle of our campus. I think that improves the safety of campus for our students and staff, especially if you tried to drive through campus during a class change. This drastically improves our safety.
Yeah. Totally worth it if you ask me. All right, so we have that's all the votes that we have for today. We have a discussion, and I want to make it clear, we don't have to make a decision about this, but it's something that Roger brought up, and as we're gearing up potentially for talking more about this project, it was worth preparing everybody about this concept so it's not a surprise, and so we can start talking about ideas. We're not going to define any specifics today. We're not going to vote on anything, but it's about, and I think Lisa mentioned it, with any project, there could be change orders. There could be things that could change the timing or the scope or the budget. So we want to make sure that we get ahead of that and define a process on what the board's role is for that, when the board doesn't need to get involved and whatnot. So I'll turn it over to Roger to discuss, because I think this was discussed in finance. So again, it's just to get the discussion started. We're not making any decisions today about this process.
Yes, so this is like Raul said, this is just an inform to the board to say that, as part of a construction project, we need a change order process so that the project can stay on schedule. What we don't want, and this is what Bob Aldrin presented to us, is we don't want every decision to go up to the board and have to wait a month to make a decision to paint the curb a different color. It'll cost us $10 more. So similar. So we will, in finance, we'll be getting a detailed review of a change order process so that the small decisions can be made by either Bob Baldwin or Liana. The slightly larger decisions will be made by Lisa. Still larger decisions could be made by the finance committee, and huge decisions would be made by the board. So that's, and any large project needs a change order process. And because we've never done construction before, we do not have an existing change order process implemented at AMSA. And so basically it'll be similar to finance. We already have a budget approval process so that small budget changes can be approved by Liana, larger ones by Lisa, still larger ones by the finance committee, and significant changes for example, like buying the HVAC system last year, come to the board. And we'll be discussing in finance with Bob Baldwin, and Lisa and Liana will be presenting a package to show where the breakpoints are as to what decisions can be made immediately versus what decisions that need larger review and approval.
Just the
And we'll have-
timeline, oh, I'm sorry, Roger, just the timeline for that. Liana and I are going to bring the actual process to the Finance Committee on September 12th, and then they will make a recommendation to the board on the 15th. And there are some regulations where, you know, anything over 25,000, the bank has to get involved too. So we'll have all that information to the Finance Committee on the 12th, and then back to the board by the 15th.
Yeah.
So does that mean we should vote on the policy or the process on the 15th?
Yes.
Yes, so the Finance Committee is planning to present a policy for approval for the board on the 15th.
Sorry, I'm sure you didn't miss that, but let's make sure we have a agenda item on the 15th for that. Yeah. Right?
Or
Any
the change order
process.
policy, or it would be a procedure, a protocol.
I don't know the formal difference
I
of
would-
those things.
I would call it the change order process.
Got it.
Yeah. So I guess that's it with that, unless, you know, does anybody have any opinions of that process or any discussion that we'd like to get started? And I guess we'll wait for the proposal from Leanna, Lisa, and finance. All right. Again, we just wanted to make everybody aware of it, so it's not a surprise when we talk about it next time. With that, unless anybody has anything else, we'll move over to chair business. So I think Lisa did a good job of highlighting what happens next on this. So I'm just going to reiterate, we're going to get the bids and the final guaranteed maximum price by the 11th. And then that packet, however that looks, is going to be shared with the whole board as soon as possible when we receive it. And then we'll have those few days to review. And then we're going to meet on the 15th. It's going to be a remote meeting again, unless we want to change that, but it sounds like, you know, we wanted to do that remotely for convenience. And then that's when we're going to make the decision. That will be another special board meeting. So our next full board meeting is going to be in October. So we'll go back to our regular programming with, you know, committee updates, etc., for the October meeting, which I don't recall the specific date, but it's, you know, we'll confirm it on the 15th. Lisa did mention there's a couple of open house events on the 21st and the 27th. I would like to encourage us, and I'll try to make I think there's one that I can make on the 21st, so I'll plan to be there, but I think it's important for the board to be there to answer any questions or to try to address any concerns that anybody might bring up. This would be after we make the decision. So it will be good for us to explain the kinds of things that, you know, we already talked about in the meetings, etc. So I think it's good not to assume that everybody sits down and watches every board meeting, every minute of every board meeting. So for us to come to these meetings and be present and show that we are here to explain our decisions, I think is important. So I will encourage everybody that is available to try to make, you know, we can coordinate, you know, who's available for those two. Again, I'll try to make the one on the 21st. So if anybody's available for the 27th, that would be good for the board to be represented at that. So I just wanted to throw that out there to make sure we, you know, we're there. And then lastly, I guess we can figure this out on the 15th, but, you know, we haven't met in person in a while. So the October board meeting would be a good candidate to meet in person. So think about that. I'm seeing nodding, so I'm not going to put it up for vote. I'm just seeing reactions. So maybe it's a good idea to meet in person in October. If not, you know, we'll continue the remotely on the 15th, but we'll meet in person in October. Anything else that anybody else wants to bring up before we go into executive session? Then I will entertain a motion to go on to executive session for the purpose of discussing negotiation with represented personnel, because doing so in open meeting will be detrimental to our position. We'll excuse Greg from the board as a
Yep, that's what I was about to say. Thank you.
But I will and I will invite keep me honest, Roger. We're inviting Lisa, Mike, Noraki, and Leanna's not around, right? So just the two of them. Anybody else joining us? We don't have our lawyer today.
No, just, I believe it's just Lisa and Mike will be joining us.
Yep.
Do we have a link? Sorry, logistics question. Do we have a link for the executive
Sarah
session?
sent a separate link for the executive session. If you don't have that, you can email me and I'll make
I
sure.
got
You
it.
were sent an invite and as well as a link. You were
Yeah,
sent two things.
yeah, I have it. It arrived about 2:45 in my mailbox. So if other people are looking for it,
All right. So I kind of left the motion hanging.
yeah, I will. Did you?
Motion.
I make the motion as Raul described that we go to executive session for the purposes of the discussing strategy and tactics for negotiation with the represented personnel.
Aaron seconds.
Darren.
Then
All right, and I will call. Bella,
Yes.
Darren,
Yes.
Evan,
Yes.
Greg? Oh, you're going to
Yes.
not. Well, yes, you're leaving, yes. Jill?
Yes.
Maura?
Yes.
Raul?
yes.
Roger?
Yes.
Sheila?
Yes.
And Samini?
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you everybody for joining. Thank you, Sarah, for organizing.